This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph, and I say it's time to talk. Let's talk. 607-772-1290. Talk on Binghamton Now. WNBF. This is the talk station, serving the nation. Everybody loves it, according to the information written on the liner card. Good morning. And another big episode is underway. 27 days till the biggest election in your life. Without further ado, let's hit the phones. Let's hit them hard at 912. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Paul from West Windsor.
All right, Paul, what's up?
I have a cute little story to tell you. It might put a smile on your face. My 76-year-old teacher wife came home and told me there was a 68-year-old teacher that was thinking of retiring, and she didn't come home, so her husband went to the school, and he went to her window of the classroom, and she was stooped over on the desk, and she was dead. So, naturally, I had to reply something. I told her, what side of the window is your classroom on in case you don't come home?
Oh, okay. There you go. Laughter's the best medicine.
Hey, that's why nobody is looking.
That's true. That's true. I hope you have a great day, sir.
You too.
Thank you. It's 9:13 WNBF. It always pays to be able to laugh a little bit of levity in uncertain times. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Edville. How you doing?
Good. What's up, Tom?
So basically, to finish our conversation from yesterday, you know, it's so funny that the people that scream conspiracy theory, like Hunter's laptop, amongst a bunch of other things, those people were lying, because now we know that a lot of those things were true. A great portion of those things are true. You know, that's, you know.
What was the conspiracy? What was the conspiracy about his laptop?
It was Russian disinformation, right-wing.
It's irrelevant. And we already established that his privacy was violated. We established some people don't care, and most right-thinking Americans respect the right to privacy. So for those who would love to use private information to hurt Hunter Biden, hurt his dad, hurt Dr. Jill Biden, or the wonderful extended Biden family, I mean, obviously everything's fair, including invading his privacy. But I know that's irrelevant. Continue.
The point to focus on, what side constantly keeps using conspiracy? And the people from the...
We know the side. He has his own social media. He has, it's called it, he started up his own pseudo Twitter after he got kicked off Twitter. So yeah, you're right. I can't help that. He's got money. Let's face it. What side has the most money? Democrats.
A lot.
Democrats don't have much money at all. They're Democrats. They're not necessarily the best business people. Some are very good, but traditionally, the people who have the best business outcomes have been Republicans, and they also, not only do they have the best business outcomes, they have the most money. So, as they say, if you got money, you got it all, baby. And that's why the Republicans are in the driver's seat. If the Republicans can't win this election, it's not for lack of money, because they have more money than the Democrats.
Bob, that's not even remotely true. The Democratic Party is the largest party, always been the largest party.
It has more people. It doesn't have more money. Think about the richest people you know, I'm not going to name their names, but think about the richest people in the U.S. Are they Democrats or are they Republicans? Are they liberals or are they conservatives? Think about it.
You know, and the other
think about it. Even think about the candidates. The two tickets. I won't name the names, but think of the Republican ticket with their people, and then think of the Democratic ticket with their people. Which ticket has a greater overall net wealth? It's not even close.
I know it's not close.
That's what I'm saying. The people with the money win. That's why the Democrats are afraid. The Democrats know that the Republicans have access to more money because they run more businesses. They have more rich supporters. That's why Republicans want tax rates to stay the same for the wealthiest people. They don't want their taxes to go up 1 penny to help pay down our out-of-control deficit. Our debt. So, it's okay. It's okay. The truth is okay to face. The Democrats realize what they're up against. That's what they face 27 days before the election. They're going to be in a position where their opponents, including the two people who appear on the ticket, are extraordinarily wealthy people, have extraordinarily wealthy friends, and therefore, between now and November 5th, they could spend a virtually unlimited amount of money on radio advertising to help win the election. So if the sides were equal, if each side had, say, $100 million or $500 million, each side could spend $500 million on the election, then the overall election or the campaign landscape would be more fair. At least it'd be even. But the Republicans, of course, the Republicans have the most money.
Are you just going to talk and not let me speak? You're just rambling like not even truth. If you look at who has the largest donations in campaign funding, it's always the Democrats. The Democrats are the richest, are the largest party in the world. They're the oldest party in the world. That doesn't change. And the Democrats have more voters than the conservatives in the world.
Well, if that's the case, then they'll win. I appreciate your call. Thanks. Well, if they've got more voters and all the money, then they're going to win. Don't even hold the election. See, maybe that's why people are laying the groundwork to claim the election is rigged after they lose, because here it is. We just had the caller say that the Democrats have the most money and the most voters. So if you're going to be on the losing side, why not, in the run-up to the election, lay the groundwork so you can say it was rigged again and say it wasn't fair? Because if you have the sense you're going to lose, why not prepare post-election to cause more trouble than we had 4 years ago? That's the spirit. That's one of the difficulties that I think many Americans are grappling with, that even with the election coming on November 5th, it's not over. In fact, after November 5th, that's probably when the real trouble will ensue, given our experience from the 2020 election and culminating in what happened on January 6th. So I think that's why many people are still nervous that no matter how the election goes, even in the past, the one person has a record when winning to be a sore winner. So if you're a sore winner, we know how you behave when you lose. It's even worse. So it's, as they say, is what it is. But that's what makes it fascinating. That's what makes it America. It's 9:20 at WNBF, WNBF.com, the voice of real Americans. 607-772-1290. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now.
Morning, Bob. I'm revisiting a conversation we had a long time ago maybe a year ago about my frustrating run at mayor in the village of Owego in 2010. Largest turnout in the history of village elections, and I lost by 12 votes. But here's the story within the story. I probably was perceived as being a Republican, even though you don't run on party tickets in the village. You create your own party. But we were up against the Democratic machine. And the irony of the vote was, at the end of the day, we had to recount everything. But the vote counts, all my trustees got elected. But I didn't. But none of the trustee counts came close to the total number of votes for mayor, which never sat well with me. I could never understand it, but when you saw the things that went on in that process, I decided to myself that if that's what it takes to be mayor, I don't think I want to be mayor. It was an experience.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea why things happen or how they happen, but in politics, I never said politics was going to be 100% joy-filled. It's, hey, at all levels, local, state, federal, it's guaranteed to be fun.
And the big story with that whole thing, too, was, and you can verify this with Mike, our current mayor, because they're all familiar with the history of it. But at that time, I was a trustee. I rewrote a grant for the cemetery to do repairs in Evergreen Cemetery, which was near and dear to my heart. My parents are buried up there. I have a spot up there if that's where I want to go. And rewrote this grant that the village had tried to get through for years and couldn't get it. So I rewrite it. I take personal control of it, rewrite it, and get the grant for $326,500. I remember it like it was yesterday. And so they win the grant, and then shortly after that, the powers that be take over, and they let that grant rot. This never happened. You don't give money back to the state. They were just like, what? And they never utilized the grant money to repair the cemetery. And it was such a travesty. But because they weren't attached to it, they didn't want to follow through with it. That's why I was always amazed that the Riverwalk got finalized when it did, because there was such a thing between, it came from either Senator Libous or Hinch. And obviously we know the Democrat.
Yeah, I know Hinchy had something to do with it. I'm not sure if Libous did too.
It was Libous' money that they were short.
Well, let's always say, remember, it's not Libous' money or Hinchy's money. It's our money that they are always generous with, giving back a little bit of our money, and typically, in the weeks or months before the election. So, yeah, but they like to pretend it's their money.
And that was a great project, by the way.
Well, I love it, too.
It was a great project, and not just in terms of the aesthetic, but the functionality of that Riverwalk to protect the back of the river row and also encapsulate the sewer line. And a lot of people didn't know about that. And it was fascinating. And of course, once the Democratic mayor got elected, I was still a trustee and I got cut right out of the process. But that's part of the game too.
Hey, it's how it's played, man. Yeah, it's the way it goes. I don't like it. It's the way it goes. I mean, it's politics.
Bob, when I moved out of the village, 4 years ago now, moved just outside of town, greatest thing I ever did. Greatest thing I ever did. The town of Tioga, no stringent regulations, power structure, whatever.
Right.
It's live and let live.
Well, that's why a lot of people do move out of, say, a village or a city or whatever and go to a rural area, or you definitely have typically more freedom and fewer issues with people constantly trying to tell you what to do. Appreciate your call.
Okay.
Thank you. It's 928 WNBF, DJ from Binghamton.
Good morning, Bob. How you doing, brother?
Good. What are you, in some kind of a Cessna? What was that? A Cessna that you're flying?
I'm not in a Cessna. I got my 5G phone up in my ear, which I don't usually like to do. That's a woman letting down a wheelchair for her elderly companion. I'm downtown on Court Street. What's going on with you? What are we talking about? The election again?
Yeah, we're talking about America. Hey, I got to run. Karen Sweet O'Neill is standing by. I got to...
Then what'd you take my call for, then?
Huh?
I'll call back.
What did I take his call for? Because Karen Sweet O'Neill wasn't ready yet. What did I take his call for? So he didn't have to wait.
Providing you with the best solutions of your lifetime. The KSO Insurance Weekly Spotlight with Karen Sweet O'Neill on News Radio 1290 WNBF.
And this live update is sponsored by KSO Insurance Solutions. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Great. So let's get right to it. We need tips. We need information.
All right. So you're going to get it. We are talking about annual open enrollment for people that are on Medicare. And why are we talking about that again? Because it's a short period of time, October 15th to December 7th, when people can schedule an appointment and decide, should I keep my plan that I have, whether it's a Medicare Advantage plan, prescription drug plan, or a supplemental plan, or should I, get this shopped and perhaps look at something new, depending on the benefits and the features of the plan. So why was it important? We talked about this yesterday briefly. This coming year, instead of 52 Medicare Advantage plans available in our Tri-County area to people that are on Medicare, they dropped it to 40. So 40 plans from 52, obviously we can do that math. That's 12 that are off the table. So that's a big deal just for options and features and benefits, because the less choices that you have, then the less options and features and benefits that you have. But also, importantly, is if you have one of those 12 plans that got dropped, then you need to pay attention, because you need to get new coverage effective January 1st, because they no longer are offering that plan in our area. There's a couple Humana plans like that. There's a couple United Healthcare plans like that, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you get a letter, because that is by law what you need to get from your existing carrier, then open it and read it, because that is how they notify you that your plan may be going away. And you don't want to do that on December 31st. You want to do that now so you can shop and just, make sure that going forward, whatever plan that you choose will benefit you. Also, same thing with your prescription drug coverage standalone plans. There were 15 that were available. They're now down to 12. Well, I say, it's only 3 plans that aren't available. But if that's your plan, then guess what? That's pretty darn important, because you need to have prescription drug coverage.
Well, it's terrible. Karen, I just say it's terrible when this happens.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's just the way that it goes with Medicare.
Well, I wish they would just stop that. Can't they turn over a new leaf, Karen? Can you, have a word in private with them?
Oh, if only. If only.
Well, I just thought I'd put it out there in case you hadn't thought about that. Or do you want me to give them a call this afternoon after the program?
Give them a call. Who are them?
See how that works. Faceless puppeteers that control our lives.
Right. And speaking of which, in the paper over the weekend, there was a big insert, because you're going to see a lot of advertisements now for, Medicare Advantage plans and prescription drug plans, because that's one of the only ways they can advertise to you. And it was for this Trinity Health Plan, New York. So I'm looking into it, and I'm reading it. It sounds really great, and everything. And then I'm looking at the providers, and providers are the doctors and hospitals that are in your network plan that you should go to because you're going to have less of a copay, and you'll actually be covered. And guess what? They're not even. It isn't even in our area.
Really?
So it's like you can't even purchase them.
Karen, say it ain't so.
It is so. It is so. Mohawk Valley, Oneida, Rome, those places. Yes, it is in their provider area, but not in ours. So what do? You really just need to pay attention to your annual notice of change that gets sent to you in the mail. And, it's like anything else, Bob. If it's not broken, you don't fix it. So it's like, well, you just keep your plan year after year after year because it worked well for you. And that's a good argument. I mean, that's what I think you should do as well. But you need to know that from year to year to year, the plan doesn't stay the same. So it changes and changes and changes. So it's an important time of year for people that are on Medicare. And it's also changing very quickly. So it's really advantageous to get right ahead of it. We are taking appointments, obviously, for the October 15th through December 7th time period, and you can reach us at 607-772-4898. We are located up on 1708 Vestal Parkway East, up above Plato's Closet and Style Encore. We're one level. You drive right up to us. Or you can also Google us at KSO Insurance, and all our contact information will come. And you can make an appointment that way if you choose. But the most important thing to do is wherever you go and whatever you do, just make sure that you know what your features and benefits of your plan are going to be, and if you even have a plan for 2025.
Excellent.
So what do you think about that, Bob?
Excellent advice. Well,
hey, I tell you what.
I have some thoughts that I would share with you privately. I don't want to make anybody disappointed on the radio, but I may have my own private thoughts.
Don't we all? Most important though, is to cover yourself.
So maybe I'll give you a call this afternoon to, give you an earful. Where you're like, well, thanks, Bob. That's unfortunately I have a couple of appointments now, so can I go? No, I have just a few other things to add, Karen. Oh my goodness. Well, I hope you have
an ear for you, Bob.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, good to hear from you. Enjoy the day. If you get a chance, get out and get some fresh air, like take a hike someplace, maybe at the IBM Glen or
I'll tell you what.
Or how about that trail? The trail there in Appalachian there under the highway. Harriet Marcy worked so hard for the marsh there in Appalachian. So have you ever been there? Did you ever go?
No, I was talking about the rail trail.
Oh, yeah. Well, the rail trail, nothing against the rail trail,
Right.
And the other side, the west side of the rail trail, has the most expensive rail trail bridge in North America. I know Vestal taxpayers who, even to this day, marvel that got green lighted.
You mean right by the old Spalding Bakery?
Yeah, that bridge.
Down in there, that area?
Yeah. What a great investment. And every time, since I live outside the town of Vestal, every time that I cross that bridge, I think, thank you, Vestal taxpayers, for making my walk possible.
See?
Yeah.
Good things do happen.
Yeah, good things do happen to people freeloaders like me who take advantage of the Vestal Rail Trail.
You're not a freeloader because you work. So,
that's true. I do work and I do pay taxes. I can tell you that some of my hard-earned tax money, I think state and federal money, ultimately did contribute to some of that rail trail. So I am proud. I am proud of the work I did.
You are part owner.
Karen, have a great day.
You too, Bob.
Thanks. And believe it or not, that segment was sponsored by KSO Insurance Solutions, and it was totally live. Totally live. It has not been replaced by AI. Tune in next Wednesday to see what it sounds like in the AI rendition. You'll be glad you did. Coming up next, we'll talk about the Waterman Conservation Education Center. What's up at Waterman? We'll find out next live on Binghamton Now, WNBF. It's Wednesday morning. Joining us now in the studio, Chris Audette from the Waterman Conservation Education Center. headquartered in beautiful Appalachian.
Sunny Appalachian, New York. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Bob. I thought I'd just come in this morning because I want to tell you to take a hike. In fact, I want to tell the entire Southern Tier community to just go take a hike.
Wow, what an attitude. I get it. It's part of a special initiative, a promotion from Waterman. Take a hike.
I mean, it's what we do because, you know, all 6 of our nature preserves and hiking trails are free for everybody. So you might as well go take a hike.
Enjoy. A lot of work has gone into the acquisition of those properties, the maintenance of the properties. So, yes, indeed, take a hike, whatever one is most convenient, or try them all.
No, absolutely. And you know, this is part of our annual fundraising campaign. This is our main fundraising campaign for the year. Because if you do take a hike, if you enjoy it, if you got a chuckle out of this at the slightest, you know, toss $1 our way. If everybody that hears us gives us $1, you're going to get us through the winter. It's a slow time for us. And, you know, this is when we buckle down and we get things ready for the spring, and we plan out our programming. So give us a leg up, and then, you know, we'll help you out.
Sounds like a really good idea. For people not familiar with the different locations, some people may be familiar. We just a moment ago touched on, say, IBM Glen, or the Appalachian Marsh. That's with the convenient entrance right off Route 434, and it's always fun to walk in under that section of Route 17, future 86, and then go and experience nature in the middle of 2 opposing lanes of the interstate highway system.
Well, you know, it's super unique, and like you said, it's an oasis in the middle of a highway, and you know, it's relatively low investment adventure. You know, it is not every day you get to tunnel underneath a major highway.
It's great. We'll talk a little bit more about the Appalachian Marsh in a moment. We've got, of course, the trails at the Waterman Center itself.
Yep,
not far from the marsh.
I mean, we hold and we manage and we offer to the community several iconic properties. I mean, from the IBM Glen, that's been a fixture of the community for really about a century. Yeah. To Hiawatha Island in the middle of the Susquehanna, Brick Pond in Owego, which is where a large majority of the bricks were dug to build downtown Owego after the major fire that about wiped out downtown. And then our main center in Appalachian that's on the Waterman family's old farmland, and it's charming. You know, we have a little gorge, we have a little cascade. A quite nice nature center, if I might say so. So we have a lot to offer.
And also, the most recent thing that was added was about 5 years ago, thanks to a gift from Charles Pettis.
Yeah, Chuck Pettis left his sprawling land out in West Windsor to us, and we're working on developing the history of that property. It's really interesting, and Chuck was one of the first African American engineers hired by IBM, and he worked for them for years. He operated the Roller Dome, which was beloved by many. So many people have reached out to us and talked about their youth spent at the Roller Dome. Brilliant musician, incredible horticulturalist. Chuck was a lot of things, and he was amazing at every one.
And this 103-acre property is just part of his legacy. I see from the website the preserve first opened to the public just a little over 5 years ago.
Yep.
So that's, and I have yet to visit, but that's on my list of things to do.
Well, trails are constantly in development thanks to Scott Clark, our lead volunteer out there, our trail steward. But Triple Cities Hiking Club has done a lot to develop trails there and elsewhere on Waterman properties. It takes a village.
We touched on the Appalachian Marsh, and there's a great story about the history of the marsh on the Waterman Center website. And also, since we've talked about it before with Rick Marcy about the work that his mom Harriet did, he pointed out when he was here several weeks ago that there is still a nice video, an extended interview, I think that was conducted by WSKG several years ago with both Rick and his mom. And so it's a remarkable story. Tell us a little bit about some of the developments at the Appalachian Marsh, because that's so many people have a chance to visit that year round, and I know there are some things that have been going on.
Well, sure. Well, first off, that video, I encourage everybody to watch it, because Harriet has some incredible sound bites in that video as she describes the grueling process of convincing highway engineers of yore to go around a wetland rather than through it. And we have Harriet to thank for a lot of our parks programming. Just an amazing person. So in her honor and to continue maintaining the marsh as a nice place for people to enjoy nature and view wildlife, we're nearly complete in replacing a viewing blind that's right at the water's edge. Gives a nice vista going out into the main body of water there, and it's just charming. And this one we built to last.
Good. That's an important thing. The autumn is nice. Are you going to be doing anything in terms of offering people opportunities to see some of the colors of autumn that we experience here in the region?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the reasons that we've timed this Take a Hike campaign for now, because I mean, nature's beautiful the year round, but she's certainly putting on an incredible show starting right now, and it's going to happen fast. So get out there and enjoy it. And one way that you can do that is we have relaunched our Susquehanna River Cruise program. So for the next 3 weekends, we will make for sale soon tickets to take a cruise around Hiawatha Island on our pontoon boat. So that will be the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th of October. We need at least 4 people or 4 passengers, I should say, to go out on the water. We have a maximum of 10 people on the boat. And $40 for an hour of pleasure cruise and history narrative, and our boat pilot's actually a brilliant wildlife photographer. If any of you follow Stevens Paddle on Facebook, and if you don't, you should, because it's incredible stuff. He's going to be driving the boat and expounding on all of the incredible experiences he's had out there in a kayak, telling the story of the river.
And again, there'll be 3 opportunities coming up this month.
Yep, 3 opportunities, the next 3 Saturdays, basically, and we'll have departures at noon and at 2 o'clock.
And if people want to get more information or register, what do they need to do if they want to participate in those river cruises?
Well, check out our beautiful, brand new designed website. We'll have tickets for sale through that, or you could always give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. The phone number is 607-625-2221. There's somebody there to talk to you from 9 until 4, Monday through Saturday. And one of the ways to stay on top of what we have to offer best would be to go to our website and join our mailing list. All you have to do is type in your email and name. Otherwise, we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, and all of our programming goes up there too.
Do you have any new projects that you're looking forward to as far as construction or major things that will be happening either at the main facility on Hilton Road or at the other sites as you look forward, say, to 2025?
Well, one thing we just finished and one thing we'll just be starting. So those of you who enjoy the IBM Glen have noticed we've just about doubled the parking area there by installing a environmentally friendly, pervious new section of parking lot. So a lot of improvements there. But if we're really lucky in terms of the permitting process, we'll get the construction done this fall, but probably more likely in the spring. We're constructing an accessible observation platform at Brick Pond, just adjacent to the parking area, that will enable people that may have limited mobility to get to a nice vantage point where they can see the real hub of wildlife activity, which is the gigantic beaver lodge out in the middle of the pond. There'll be interpretation on there, and it'll just be a nice place to feature the best of Brick Pond.
Always a lot going on. As you said, plenty of information on the website.
Yeah, and we've redesigned that, and there's a history page for each of our preserves. There's sometimes very active histories and really interesting facts about people. I mean, we're about the land, but really the stories are about the people that made it happen.
Chris Audette, Executive Director of the Waterman Conservation Education Center. Thanks for being with us in the studio.
Always a pleasure, Bob. Remember, take a hike.
I will. I'm going to take a hike this afternoon. I'm not going to tell where. It'll be a mystery.
Mystery.
During October. It'll be an October surprise. It's 9:52. This is Binghamton Now, WNBF.
Longing for...
Let's go back to the phones. Joe in Owego, you're on the air.
Thank you, sir. Got a quick request for a candidate, Josh Riley, and a caller. The gentleman who called in after I did last time I called, who was very enthusiastic about the border plan that was basically destroyed by ex-President Trump. I looked on the internet, and the issue was a 43-yay, 15-nay vote, which included 6 Democrats. For the 2 people I mentioned, I'd like you to get together with us, the public, with a consistent summary of that bill in front of us and point out what you feel are the positive factors in the bill. There's a lot of them there. There's one site on the net that has a summary of it, and it lists them or shows them and describes them. And for the people who consistently blame ex-President Trump or former President Trump for downgrading or destroying the acceptance of that particular bill, I would like to point out that there were 6 Democrats who comprised the majority of nay votes to eliminate it from discussion, or I guess cloture, as they stated. So if you'd like to come on...
Yeah. And what about Kamala Harris? What do you think she'll do on this when she's president?
I don't think she knows it exists. Excuse me, but I want to be uncomplimentary, but...
Oh, I think she knows it exists. I'm pretty certain she probably knows.
Well, there are ways you can tell if people know things or are aware of them or take the time to, find out about them and you can at least talk from an informed basis. But no, I don't take much time to listen to many of the candidates unless they say something that...
You didn't listen to her when she was on Howard Stern?
No, I don't spend much time. I do 30 to 45 seconds of Joe Scarborough and Morning Joe in the morning, probably 10 minutes of...
Oh, that's a lot more than I can take. I don't like that show. I'd rather watch Gayle King because she's got a better show on CBS. That Morning Joe, I don't know. I think it's all just a thing just to promote drinking coffee, to be honest.
Thank you very much. I agree with you again.
See, we're making progress, Joe. Hope you have a great day.
I'm going to have him sitting in the parking lot waiting for the lady to get done fixing my wife's hair, and I'm going to go out and have a good time. I got my morning chores done. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joe. It's 9:58 at WNBF. It is a tremendous day, and as I indicated, I will be going out at an undisclosed location early this afternoon to take a hike. Don't worry, it's not just to enjoy the scenic beauty of the Binghamton area. It's also actually for a news story. So, yes, it's not me just conjuring up some sort of crazy excuse to go out and walk around on a nice October afternoon. No, I'll be out there working, taking pictures and notes for a story that probably will appear on our website this afternoon. Probably. We'll see, unless I get lost during my hike. In that case, well, we'll see when it shows up. Forecast for today, partly sunny, some isolated showers after 2 p.m., high 60, cloudy tonight with showers likely, low 40. Partly sunny tomorrow with scattered showers in the morning, high 52, and Friday looks beautiful, sunny with a high of 65. Right now in downtown Binghamton, it's 49. That's 9 Celsius. For you Celsius fanatics, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to Binghamton Now. And joined in the studio by Rebecca Rathmel, Democratic candidate for Binghamton City Council in the 6th District, portion of the South Side. Feels like deja vu all over again. Seems like we were going through this about a year ago.
Well, we were going through it about a year ago. We are down to 27 days until this year's election that will determine the remainder of the term for 6th District seat. So
explain to our listeners how we got here, the condensed version.
Sure.
So talk about what happened when you faced Republican Philip Strawn last year, and then you don't have to go into excruciating detail what happened after the election, but give us a brief overview of what transpired, and then, of course, we got to the point where a special election is being held. Give us an overview.
Well, Phil and I tied. We both received 550 votes last year during the 6th District election. A tie had not happened in decades locally, so there was a lot of confusion about what the next step was, whose responsibility it was to move that next step forward, whether it would be a city council appointee or a mayoral appointee. There were differing opinions as research was done into the issue, and so 2 appointments were made and ended up being a legal dispute that was ultimately decided by the 6th Judiciary District, where City Council was given the authority to appoint a representative for the 6th District. And because the 6th District had previously been held by a Republican, the judge at the time also represented that it needed to be an appointment of a Republican. So City Council met with a number of people throughout the district, throughout the city, and ended up appointing Michael Kotsky, who is currently in the seat. He is not running for the remainder of the term. Phil and I are again on the ballot to take that seat for this election.
So Phil Strawn is on the ballot as the Republican candidate. I haven't heard anything from him at all in recent months. I was hoping to hear something so we could set up an interview here in the studio and talk about rematch and what his vision might be if he wins in the special election. But so far we haven't heard anything, and here we are less than 4 weeks before the election. Right.
To my knowledge, Phil has not declared that he is running again. The Republican committee has confirmed he will be on the ballot. Again, though, as far as I'm aware, he is not meeting with constituents, knocking on doors, chatting with folks, discussing his ideas for the remainder of the term, anything like that. I've also not heard from him, not seen him.
And therefore, there have been no public forums, no debates or anything between the candidates for this special election.
The Southside Neighborhood Assembly is hoping to hold a candidate forum next Tuesday evening at MacArthur Elementary School. I've let them know that if Phil doesn't respond or isn't interested in participating, I'm happy to just take questions from community members. So hopefully that forum will still occur, but I'm not aware whether Phil will participate.
And so he knows, and anybody who knows Phil Strawn is aware, he's always welcome to either come into the studio, he's been here before, or we could do a phone interview, but between now and Election Day, if he has any desire to talk about the special election, of course, he's welcome to do so. As far as the key issues as you see it for the people in this part of the South Side, makes up the 6th District, what are, at the moment, the most important issues?
I would say knocking on hundreds of doors between this year and last year, more than anything else, housing continues to pop up as a primary concern, a primary issue and challenge for residents, particularly on the South Side. And in two contexts, housing quality, so lack of or ineffective code enforcement response, and housing affordability. Renters range from I would say seniors who are concerned, afraid really that they may not be able to find something affordable when they're no longer able to maintain their single family home. And then parents who are concerned that once their college age students or children will no longer be able to find housing as students, that they're not going to be able to find an affordable rental option. So affordable housing quality are the primary issues that continue to pop up.
One of the things also that's been in the news over the last several months in the district was the closure of the supermarket.
Absolutely.
There has been a supermarket at 307 Conklin Avenue for 6 decades. I believe the Akels opened up the Giant store in 1964, and for decades they ran it as a very busy and important store. And then I believe it was in 2009 that Wise Markets from Pennsylvania bought the Binghamton Giant stores, and unfortunately, this past March, that store was closed. Yeah. And I know from talking with people who live in the surrounding neighborhood, that's been a big challenge, especially for people who don't have a car.
I definitely hear that knocking on doors as well. Even just before the closure occurred back in March, current city council members Hadassah Manovetsky, Kenya Middleton, and I held a public forum for Southside residents concerned about that closure. And I think, to our community's credit, so many of the folks that showed up at that forum to make recommendations or voice concerns we're representing that it is, yes, an inconvenience for them, but our major concern lies with the households across the district who don't have access to private transportation and who can't get to the Weiss on the east side or the Weiss on Pennsylvania Avenue, at least not easily enough. And so we're reducing, not only do we not have a full service grocery option for Southside families, but we've reduced and extremely limited food security on that side of town. We have seniors, we have low-income households. I mean, we're just layering challenge upon challenge when it shouldn't be that way. A lot of residents have expressed, I would say, disappointment that not only the closure, but kind of a continued feeling of poor representation, weak representation for Southside East residents, and that factoring into the disinvestment that we've experienced.
It's 10:18. We're speaking with Rebecca Rathmel, Democratic candidate in the special election in the 6th District for Binghamton City Council. Public safety continues to be an issue, not just in the one district, but all across the city, all across the region. And sadly, too often we hear of incidents of crime, whether it's property crime or a violent crime where people are targeted, and it could be shootings, stabbings, assaults, or whatever. What are you hearing as you go through the district about some of the concerns that people have regarding crime and whatever efforts might be taken to reduce the prevalence of crime in the district?
I think when I chat with neighbors about public safety within the district and throughout the city, one of the things that I think I try to touch on is expanding our definition of public safety from simply preventing or simply reacting to crime to actually preventing crime. So expanding our perspective to lessening criminal activity and reducing the burden on first responders to have to address nonviolent offenses. And we do that by providing stable housing. We do that by ensuring food security. We do that by promoting access to critical interventions, making sure that mental health and supportive services are readily available. So I think it's a preventive, a lot of, I don't know if theme is the right word, but across the board in terms of policy that I think is effective, innovative, and has demonstrated to work. It's preventive. We've got to start reducing not only criminal activity, but when it comes to housing and homelessness, reducing the number of individuals who are accessing shelter. I mean, there are things we can be doing to prevent all of that rather than consistently having to cycle through these responses.
One of the things, too, and it's been bad over the last several years, and sometimes when I'm out covering stories and I see up close the conditions that people are living in, whether it's pockets of the southeast corner of the city or basically almost anywhere in Binghamton now, there are pockets of really severe poverty. And in some cases, you can see entire streets or neighborhoods that are so dismal, and just even if you spend only 5 or 10 minutes on the street, not just driving through, but getting out of your vehicle and walking and speaking with people who live there, and it's impossible not to come away sometimes with a feeling of hopelessness. Our neighborhoods are deteriorating around us. Some of that has to do with the actual structures. So when we talk about housing quality and we talk about the conditions that residents are left to live in, we have and have for years had an extremely ineffective code enforcement system. Just last month, I proposed a restructure of code enforcement operations that would boost the opportunity for federal reimbursement and expand code enforcement capacity so that they can begin to actually scale their ability to do code enforcement. But that has to also change from our extremely reactive system to a proactive code enforcement approach. And I think it comes down to, that hopelessness, that disappointment, that feeling of disinvestment. There's, one example that I would represent that folks on Southside East in particular have brought up is we're spending somewhere close to $150,000 on transforming the former tennis court at Webster Street Park into a pickleball court. I and others on the south side don't have anything against pickleball, but we also have over 400 kids in that district, and we have a basketball court right next to that new pickleball court that is in complete disrepair. And so that backwards prioritization of
local residents who are actually living in our neighborhoods, reaching out to them to understand how they are directly impacted by the ordinances that are being considered at City Hall. We have to find a way, and I am committed to finding a way, to make local governance accessible. We have to be able to get out of City Hall and our business meetings and our work sessions and go to local residents to talk to them about what they're experiencing, what they're most challenged by, and what they need us to prioritize.
Rebecca Rathmel, the Democratic candidate in the 6th District, Binghamton City Council special election November 5th. Early voting will start soon, I think in about 2.5 weeks.
I want to say the 20
what?
6? I should know that.
I think let me check, because I think it's a Saturday. I think it's the
26th.
Yeah, let me check.
I feel like my campaign manager is shaking her head right now that I
think it is the 26th. It is a Saturday. So there'll be several opportunities for early voting, and we will talk with probably the Broome County Board of Elections people before the early voting begins here in Broome County. And, of course, Election Day will be November 5th, and Republican Phil Strawn is also appearing on the ballot for this special election. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. It's 10:24. Coming up, we'll be taking phone calls on issues, Binghamton and beyond. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes? What are your dreams for Binghamton and beyond? 607-772-1290. This is Binghamton Now on a Wednesday morning at WNBF. Here's the forecast from the National Weather Service. Partly sunny today, isolated showers developing this afternoon, high 60, mostly cloudy tonight, showers likely, low 40. Partly sunny tomorrow with scattered showers in the morning, high 52, sunny Friday, high 65. Right now, 54 in downtown Binghamton, 12 Celsius, air quality good, with the air quality index 32. WNBF.com has some stories that always satisfy your curiosity about some things going on around here. Let's see. For example, let me just pick out one story. For example, the endangered mussels. Endangered mussels. So we touched on that with the county executive last week, because the Center Village Bridge in the town of Colesville has been just sitting there unused now for decades, and so the time seems to be appropriate for tearing it down. The county is prepared to tear it down. Tear it down. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down the Center Village Bridge. All right. It has nothing to do with it. So anyway, we do have the article on our website. So after the story was published, I did receive official information from the Department of Environmental Conservation. The agency received an application from Broome County's consultants for a license to collect and possess, which includes the survey plan from the consultant who would be doing the mussel survey. The survey plan lays out the scientific methods used to conduct the proposed survey according to DEC guidelines. On August 9th, DEC issued the license. Survey will identify and study if there are protected mussels in or around the project area. Project can't proceed until the applicant and the DEC confirms whether protected mussels are present and if they would have to be moved. So as of late Tuesday, the DEC had not received any mussel survey results. So once the agency receives and reviews the report, DEC will determine if relocation of mussels are necessary and if a permit is needed along with an environmental benefit plan before the project may proceed. So there's an update. Moving mussels. As for me, I'm happy as a clam. It's 10:31 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is DJ again.
Yeah, by the way, last hour when you called, you said something to the effect, why did I take your call? Well, so as not to keep you waiting, because we had not received the incoming call. So that answers. There's the answer. I thought it would be better to try to get your call in last hour. We just weren't able to do it.
I've heard you do that before when you didn't realize that, Karen Sweet.
It's not a question of did I realize it. No, I know what's going on. I just have to wait till she actually calls. It's not a question of me being oblivious. It's just when she calls, that becomes a higher priority because that's a scheduled segment. It's not a question of did I realize it.
Bob, I've heard when Karen Sweet O'Neill has called in the past, you've done that before. It's not a big deal, bro.
Well, okay, so move on. What's your topic? What's the topic today? MoveOn.org, America's favorite website. MoveOn.org. Enjoy. So what's your favorite topic today?
Well, I heard somebody talking about the popularity of politicians winning. It's not the popular vote. It's going to be the electoral college that's going to elect our next El Presidente, or as they say in some neighborhoods, Prezi of the United States. He or she will be elected by the electoral college. You got to know this going in.
Yeah, I think people know it going in, and I think many people I talk to are pretty disgusted by it, that ultimately the person who's sworn in January 20th may in fact be the loser in the election, but hey, it's the system we have.
That and the daylight savings time.
I was going to say, we are the best country on the planet, but we sure do know how to make others elsewhere in the world, shake their head. I mean, how do you explain daylight saving time in 2024? This is a great country. It's like, just stop it. Stop it now. If Biden wanted to be a hero, he could issue an executive order and say, as of now, daylight saving time is just going to stay. We're never going to change the clocks again. That is it. And, this thing where twice a year we have to change clocks, and it's not working. Doesn't work for me. Never has. And now is the time to finally come to our senses.
Which president did that? I don't remember. I know that the swimming pools. Marco Rubio, the children always yell at the pools, and I always say, Rubio. Marco Rubio wants to change it back to, he's the main stander-outer. He does not like the daylight savings time. He says it does not.
Here's what I say. Just come up with a single time. It's called U.S. time.
Right.
The U.S. time now is 10:34. So everywhere in the United States, yes, the states, right, the territories, possessions, U.S. time right now is 10:34:30. And if you want to schedule something at any old time, if you want to open schools at any time you want, be my guest. I don't care. If you want to have dinner at a special time in the winter, or if you want to do something in the middle of the night, just use U.S. time, a single time, and that way there's never any confusion. The need, we have computers now. We have computers. We have cars that can crash themselves. So
that's right.
So we have the ability. We as Americans have the ability to get past this archaic thing with daylight saving time. And again, nothing needs to change as far as how we live our lives. The only thing that needs to change is we just adopt a singular time system, and then there never will be any confusion ever in the history, or in the future of this great country.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm glad we resolved that. Appreciate your call. Thank you, DJ. It's 10:35 at WNBF. We already have tackled one of the most vexing issues of our time. Just executive order. Starting now. It's called U.S. time. Well, I don't like U.S. time. Well, it's like saying, I don't like the temperature. You don't have to like it. You have to accept it. U.S. time. I know. Somebody is going to say some reason why it won't work. Hey, it's going to work. The question is, who will muster up the political courage to get us into the 21st century? It's not that difficult. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. What about the... Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Let's see what else. Oh, sorry, Beth. I missed this when Karen was on last hour. We got an email about, do we yet know how much a person can make while collecting Social Security without penalty? Sorry, I didn't see it. Didn't see it till now. Oh, here's something from the newspaper. That's a good deal. And somebody is sending me recipes. Good. Good, I think I'll make that. .37 finally, after basically radio silence for several months, Kamala Harris is doing some interviews, still apparently avoiding interviews with people who aren't her friends. She was on the Colbert program on the CBS channel last night. Of course, it's on too late, so I did not view The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, but fortunately the person in charge of our stack of stuff, she apparently watched it, so we do have a stack of stuff from the conversation Colbert had with Kamala Harris. One of the things that came up, and this is very disturbing, of course, the legendary journalist Bob Woodward of Watergate fame has put out another fine book. And according to his new book, there's a claim that Donald Trump communicated with Russian President Vladimir Putin since he left office and even sent him COVID tests for his personal use. Yeah, you heard right. Communicating with Russian President Putin maybe as many as 7 times since he left office, and even sending him free COVID tests for his personal use. What does Kamala Harris think about that?
This man is giving COVID test kits to Vladimir Putin? Think about what this means, on top of him sending love letters to Kim Jong-un.
Wow. Did I hear that correctly?
This man is giving COVID test kits to Vladimir Putin? Think about what this means, on top of him sending love letters to Kim Jong-un.
There you go. That was from the CBS Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It's 10:40 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Matt from Binghamton. What was that?
I don't know. It looks like I got an email from Stephen Colbert saying, thanks for playing the clips from your big stack of stuff. It's great that she was able to collect these clips, but why, the next time I have a big interview on, why don't you make yourself a cup of coffee and a bowl of popcorn and stay up late and watch my show instead of letting some minion watch the show and then carve up the clips for you the next morning? And so he does have a point there. I admit to Stephen Colbert. By the way, I didn't actually check to see if it was an email from Colbert because I'm still looking at my stack of stuff. Do you mind if I do one more thing from the stack of stuff while we have a moment?
Sure, go do the stack of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're going to be offended. Well, that's true. A lot of people don't appreciate that aspect of it, but let's just listen to one more clip. And this is from the stack of stuff from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which was broadcast at 11:35 p.m. when I believe I was sound asleep.
There's a lot of misinformation, and I beseech you, I beg you to please not pay attention to it, because there are a whole lot of folks who are there to give you help and aid in terms of the immediate aftermath and what people need to do in terms of getting through the height of this emergency and this crisis, but also in terms of long-term help.
Now, that was responding to the FEMA rumors that have been spread on social media and by one of the candidates. So that was Kamala Harris trying to respond to what appear to be intentional lies. Okay, what else do you have to say?
Just on that topic, and then you got Marjorie Taylor Greene saying we can control the government's controlling the weather. If the government was controlling the weather, don't you think this hurricane would make a direct hit on Mar-a-Lago?
That's too harsh. All right, let's move on. .org. What other topicality is on your mind?
No, it's just a joke. Somebody had written that on some platform.
Yeah, but it's mean.
Anyway,
it's mean.
I know.
You want in your heart you want to retract that.
I'm just saying.
I know, but it's mean. It's still mean.
I'm just repeating what.
Yeah, but don't repeat mean things.
It's a joke.
Yeah, but
it proves that the weather's not fixed. What I'm saying.
Well, that's true.
Anyway, I just think that first of all, I know you've been. We all would love to hear more forums with both candidates being questioned hard. 60 Minutes, as you know, it's had election special every year for many, many years since 60 Minutes started with the presidential candidates, and Donald Trump refused to go, and that wasn't, that was a pretty hard-hitting interview that Kamala Harris did appear at. The other issue today, I think that's really, if it wasn't for the height of the presidential campaign, back in July, we found out that Trump was calling Netanyahu to try to convince him to not have a ceasefire because he thought that would help him in the election. That's a direct violation of the Logan Act, getting involved in foreign policy if you're not in a position to do that. And also now from the new Woodward book, we now, I don't know how it's been confirmed, but Bob Woodward's usually a pretty straight hitter. He's uncovered 7 different instances of Donald Trump calling Putin and trying to influence on him all sorts of things that will affect the election. That's a direct, and if it wasn't for being so close to the election and everybody would say this is politics, he should be arrested. There should be new charges under the Logan Act for what he's done.
Well, fortunately, ABC's Jonathan Karl. Here's another email from who is that? Oh, this is from New York GOP. This email's from New York GOP.
Respond to my phone calls now?
Yeah, it says, get him off the air, period. Oh, no, that's a different email. No, this just came in. Listen to this. I know it's somewhat off topic, but it's from the New York GOP. It said, good morning. We want to make sure you saw this important breaking news in today's New York Post. And it has a headline from the story by Carl Campanelli. New York high school students will participate in statewide walkout against trans athletes competing in girls' sports. So the New York GOP just sent that.
Oh, wow. That's really the biggest, let's fight the culture wars instead of concentrating what the American people really need, which is leadership that cares about them.
They said there's going to be a statewide demonstration on October 24th by the Coalition to Protect Kids.
The real story there is who's the Coalition to Protect Kids? Who started it? I know you don't have time to do in-depth research. Well,
the New York Post says it has strong backing from the Catholic Church and the New York Republican and Conservative parties. So I guess the people at least one of the parties, GOP, that's backing this coalition. I guess that's why they wanted me to see the story.
What's it called again?
The Coalition to Protect Kids. So, I don't know. I hadn't heard of it, but my guess is between now and October 24th, they'll probably send me some other stuff about it. I had not heard that. Anyway, I want to just play this thing. Jonathan Karl had a chance, apparently, to chat with Donald Trump on the phone about the assertions that are included in Bob Woodward's new book, with the claim that Donald Trump had spoken several times with Vladimir Putin.
He said was that you've had a number of conversations with Putin. Is that true? I mean, I imagine that could be. No?
That's false.
Oh, really?
That's false.
So you haven't spoken to him since you left the White House?
No, I have not.
All right, so he has not. He didn't say, I don't think I have, or I don't remember. He said, I have not.
Not too many people, if somebody read him the the Logan Act, they would probably advise him to not admit that he had those conversations.
Wow. I think he probably would, though, if he did. You're right. An attorney, let's face it, attorneys usually, and you're an attorney, attorneys usually advise their clients not to talk to reporters about anything in the first place, because if you're facing any kind of legal jeopardy, there's nothing, in most cases, there's nothing talking to a reporter that's going to, in the long run, probably help your case. Here's the part where Jonathan Karl asked Donald Trump about this assertion that he sent COVID tests to Russian President Putin when Donald Trump was president.
And the other thing he said is that you had provided some Abbott test machines to Putin back during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, false.
See, he said false. False. You heard it.
Of course.
He can't just lie.
On my book stand here, let's just go over a couple of things. You know, Rick Riley, this guy wrote a book called Commander-in-Chief, and golf is an honorable game, and they know how much he cheats there.
I don't
care. We have a president.
Oh.
You don't care?
About him cheating at golf? Why would I care?
I'm talking about the lexicon of all the lies and cheating he does, not just golf.
Well, I'll just say this. In the history of America, this country has yet to have a president who hasn't lied while in office.
Come on, give me a break. There's no president has a website dedicated to the over 30,000 lies he told while he was president. We're not talking about a lie here and here every, maybe every 6 months or something. We're talking about a constant stream of untruths that come out of this guy's mouth. Look at just in the last week.
I don't want to relitigate everything he says. Appreciate the call, though. That's baked in. That is baked in. I say everybody in America knows Donald Trump. Not everybody in America knows Kamala Harris. That's why she's suddenly doing interviews. She suddenly did a flurry of interviews yesterday. Stephen Colbert, Howard Stern. Next thing you'll know, you can tell how desperate the campaign becomes, where she's calling into this program. Since we're on the border with Pennsylvania, we have some listeners in Susquehanna County. I'm kidding. She's not calling in. Morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is Vinny from Binghamton.
Yeah, what's going on? Did you see any of the Kamala Harris media blitz on Tuesday?
Well, yeah. Bob, you got to remember, too, she's only got 75 days. That's all she had.
Yeah, which begs the issue. Where has she been? Why did she just start doing a lot of interviews in the last few days?
Well, I got to tell you, like Michael Steele said the other day, he goes, it's just typical. Some of the Democrats, did we do this? Did we do that? He goes, no. And he basically said exactly what I said. You got to get out, and all those people that are knocking on the doors for you, all those people making those phone calls, you got to get out there and see them. You're doing a great job. This and that. You got to go to the ground. He goes, because let's face it. He goes, how many people saw 60 Minutes interviews? How many people saw that? Not that many. They don't. You got to get out there on the ground with the people. You got to get there, shake them hands. This is what you got to do. That's why.
Oh, you got to do more. You got to do more. You got to do that and more. It's not just retail politics and showing up at certain places occasionally. You got to subject yourself to questions to prove that you're up to the task.
I think if you watch that thing with Michael Steele, he went in better because that was what one of the commentators said. And he said, look, man, I've been doing this a long time. You've been doing news. I've been doing this, getting people in politics and getting them out there. He goes, remember, when Obama got in there, I got back the House and I got back the Senate. So I know how this works. So he goes, whatever you guys know, it's the people. He said, you got to be able to hit those people. And you've only got 75 days. So that's that. But Bob, what I wanted to call in to is I wanted to thank Jesse from Owego and Joe from Owego about this border. First, I'll go with Jesse. Jesse did touch on it. He talked about, sometimes the Senate will send these bills down. It'll have a lot of bells and whistles on it. And that is true. But what happened is after they put that bill, the Senate passed it. Now, I don't want to remind people, too. James Lankford is a very, very conservative. He was the one who really pushed this bill, along with Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, and Kirsten Simonot from Arizona, who's independent. This bill tackled it. And when you go and I wanted to thank Joe for looking it up. He said there's a lot of things online because he says this U.S. system of border management and humanitarian protection has been allowed to languish and decay for decades. Instead of investing in durable, efficient, responsive infrastructure that would allow the country to handle changes in how many people seek protection in the United States, where they come from, and what their demographics are, successive administrations have relied on temporary crackdowns that have resulted in only short-term reductions in the number of people encountered by agents at the U.S.-Mexico border. You had a caller yesterday, and they said, we should go back to this time. It was working. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It wasn't working. That's why these guys in the Senate spent this time.
Well, I'll say this. One of the reasons why some people think it was working is because there wasn't much coverage of the problem in the media at the time.
Exactly.
Suddenly, now that this has become, now that the economy is firing on all cylinders, now that gas prices are affordable for almost every American, and the recession that some people were hoping for isn't going to materialize at least before November 5th. The thing with the border and immigration, that's basically the only viable issue, except for abortion rights. And obviously Republicans are not going to really embrace that. I appreciate your call. Thank you, Vinny. It's 10:54. It's 10:54 at WNBF, USA time with Bob Joseph.
Hey.
Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Joe from Owego. Just thanks to Vinny. I appreciate it. Talk to you later. Goodbye.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. So everybody's listening. Everybody's listening. Binghamton, Vestal, Owego, Johnson City, Appalachian, Windsor, West Windsor. Everybody's listening. Just to see what happens next. There's always something good happening here on Binghamton Now. And, let's squeeze in one more call for this segment. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Water in the lines? Could be. Could be. Our phone lines are the first telltale effects of Milton, apparently. Our phone lines are being affected by a hurricane way to our south. Well, I'm sure they'll get them fixed at some point. Here's our forecast. We actually have some good weather for the next few days. Partly sunny today with isolated showers developing this afternoon. High 60. Mostly cloudy tonight. Showers likely during the evening. Low 40. Partly sunny tomorrow. Scattered showers in the morning, high 52, and Friday will be nice. Sunny with a high of 65. And right now in downtown Binghamton, it's 54. That's 12 Celsius. So I said, after this program, the first thing I'm going to do is get into the Newsmobile and go to a hiking trail. So I'm going to take a hike. So you probably won't be able to get hold of me for all afternoon because it's such a nice day. It's 10:58, WNBF. We welcome back to the studio Vestal Town historian Margaret Hadsell. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Bob?
Great. It's been a while since you've been here.
It has. Thank you for inviting me back.
Well, I heard some exciting news from historian Jerry Smith that your book, I can tell from just taking a quick glance at this book, is now out, and talk about clearly a labor of love and a lot of work and research that you put into this book. As soon as I heard from Jerry that the book is now available, I contacted you, and glad we have a chance to let our listeners in Vestal and beyond know about the work you've done with Welcome to Vestal.
Yeah, I'm appreciative to Jerry for mentioning it because it's self-published. It's kind of hard to get the word out, so this was a surprise, a nice surprise.
So for people not familiar with you, you've been the town historian in Vestal now for almost 2 decades.
Right. I began in 2005, and still there, still loving the job.
And tell me why historians are so important in New York State. Every community is supposed to appoint a historian. And so all across New York State, whether it's Broome and Tioga counties or the other 60 counties, there are many historians. And the task, although at first blush some people might think, oh, a historian, what do you do? You clip out a couple things from old newspapers, and if somebody has a question about the town history or village history, use the internet and look it up. But being a historian in New York State, it's an important role. And of course, I know you from everything I've observed and heard. You take this role as town historian very, very seriously.
I do. I think it's just as important to learn the true history as it is to hear all the anecdotes that are floating about. But as you mentioned, historians, since 1919, New York State has required a historian at every municipal level, and has assigned our responsibilities, and we have to report annually on those responsibilities. So there are 4 main categories. The first one is research and writing, which this book and my previous book fulfill, plus articles and various things like that. The second is to work with the local history in the schools, usually the 2nd and the 4th grade. We go to the schools and try to work in local history with whatever topic that is pertinent at the time or that the teacher assigns us to marry the two together on. The third one is historic preservation. So in the town of Vestal, we have a historic preservation commission, and I've been on that since the beginning. And the last one is promoting our community and advocating for its growth. So, as I mentioned, annually we report on those and what we've done to fulfill those 4 responsibilities.
Tell me about this book. This isn't your first book.
No, I had a book that was part of the Images of America series. Hundreds and hundreds of those have been done. And in that, I put together images of Vestal and told some background material, but it just gave you a very light impression of some of the history. So from all the questions that I get both online and on the phone and in person, I decided that it was time to write a book that people could read the narrative on, and then at the end of each chapter, I have a reference section for that particular topic. So, for example, one of the chapters is on the archaeology of Vestal. We had 3 primary Native American sites back during the Revolutionary War and before the Sullivan-Clinton campaign came through. And so I talk about those sites. Then at the end of that chapter, I have a lot of data that you can look up if you have questions or you can't remember something or you're doing a paper and you need to know that. And that's the way each of the 31 chapters is set up. There's a chapter on transportation, so I go into the early Crane's Ferry, which became Rounds Ferry when Crane decided he no longer wanted to do it. I get into the railroad. I get into the Shenango Canal extension, and I show people the claims that people turned in. Their property had been damaged by construction of portions of the canal, which was never completed. And so they would turn in claims against the state to be repaid for anything that they lost. So I go into that. Of course, I go into the 1901 train wreck and discuss that, bring out all the facts on that, because we do have a report from the DL&W Railroad that told exactly what had happened. And I'm sure you know, in the past, it's just as today, articles in the newspaper were, embellished, let me say, because they wanted readers to buy the papers.
Sure. And some people think that that's something that only started, say, in the last 10 or 20 years, say, with intense media competition and cable news and local TV stations and local radio stations and tabloids, all, competing for a relatively small news audience. I mean, the fact is, journalism always has had a certain aspect of taking, we'll say, something that's somewhat mundane and jazzing up to the point where you want people to read the story. And that happened 100 years ago as much as it happens today.
Absolutely. And so one of my other goals with this book was to take sometimes dry topics, cite all my sources, correct misinformation that had been prominent, and turn the narrative into something that was a little more friendly to read than just dry history. And then I've added, there's more than 1,000 images throughout the book. And so I've tried to bring in images that weren't in the first book, so you see something different, things that I stumbled upon in my research and thought people would be interested in, and made it so that it wasn't quite so dry. The last chapter is what I call the fun chapter. That's chapter 31, and it's legends, myths, and unsolved mysteries. And in that chapter, I talk about some of the things that you've heard them around town, how Theodore Roosevelt came to Vestal Center and did a speech. So that was one of the things that I started to research in depth. And I found that Theodore Roosevelt, at the time, just before he was to come to Vestal, had been shot in the right breast. And he ended up, his glass case, his metal eyeglass case, and his speech that he was going to read that night were in his pocket and slowed the bullet. He ended up with the bullet in his chest and had it there the rest of his life. They decided it was better not to take it out. But you'll find when you read that story whether he ever made it to Vestal Center or not. We have another story in there about, I had always heard the story when I became historian, that there was a young girl that was born at Chugnut, which was at the end of the Choconet Creek, and that she was the child of a soldier from Fort Stanwix and a black woman. And so I started researching that and came across an interview that had been done back in the early 1800s with a woman who claimed to have been born at Chugnut, and researched all of the facts that she had said in the interview. And interestingly enough, the places that she had been and the people she had talked to you could find them in history. So I also discovered her heritage, and that story's in there, and I'm not going to tell you the end.
That's the way to be. That's how it's done.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to create the interest, and it's compelling. Just the examples you cite make me want to get the book and spend some time. The thing about the book is, this is amazing how many pages. Jerry Smith mentioned it was quite a large undertaking, but when he made a reference to the page count, what he said on the air was a lot lower than what it turns out to be. This is approaching 700 pages.
Yeah. In fact, it was well over 700 pages until I had to cut back on some of the chapters. It was just getting out of hand, and people were saying, well, maybe you should break it into 2 volumes, but I reference, for example, in the transportation chapter, when I tell about the 1901 train wreck, I reference the chapter on disasters that have happened in Vestal. So you have to be able to go back and forth. And if it were broken into 2 volumes, I'm not sure people would be so interested in buying 2 volumes of this size. So
I say you made the right choice.
Good,
I think a single volume is more convenient. Also, tell us a little bit about the design, because you've got tabs there.
Well, those tabs are mine.
Okay. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. I meant to ask you if that was for ease, if you were looking for a specific section. Okay.
Yes.
But the other thing is, and you mentioned, what was the total number of chapters? More than 30?
31 chapters, 672 pages.
So when did you begin working on this?
Well, I really began working on it quite some time ago, but the last 4 years were probably the most intense. And the pandemic did help. I brought files home from the office and worked at home. So that allowed me to do more on the book, since I couldn't interface with people or go out and do presentations or those kinds of things. So that was a big help. And I had a lot of people who cheered me on and would call me. They had moved out of the area, and I'd get a call a couple times a year. How's the book coming? When's it going to be ready? When can I buy it? That kind of thing. And in fact, one woman who bought a number of them for her family, I shipped them to her, and 3 weeks later found her obituary in the local newspaper. So I was glad that I didn't hold it up any longer, because I felt bad about that. She was one of my biggest cheerleaders.
Well, during this process, this long process involving so much work and having to organize so much material, obviously copious quantities of material, with the research, with the images, did you ever get to the point where it's like, this is actually too much? It's a good idea, but I'm not sure I'm ever going to get this big task done to my satisfaction.
Well, I wanted to do more, yes, but it was, when it was done and it was off to the printer, it was really it left me kind of stranded with, kind of at a loss, because it became so much a part of my life to work on it almost every single day, even if only for an hour or for 4 hours. It's hard to just turn it off and say, oh, here you go, and go ahead and print it and tell me when it's done. So, and people are saying to me, when are you going to do the next one?
That was my question. So what's next? I mean, it seems, though, even though this has just been printed over the official printing was in August that it became available, I get the sense, though, at some point that you may have something more that you'd like to do. Maybe not right away. Maybe you need a period to sort of assess and decide what the right topic is or the right approach. But I have a sense, just from what you've said, that you would be inclined to do another project. Maybe not at this same level with 600, 700 pages, but something that would be a little more manageable.
You're right. And one of the thoughts that's crossed my mind just before I drift off to sleep at night is maybe I would do supplements to each of the chapters, but make them available online. So you'd read the majority of the topic from the book, but then I could always add on photographs. I could add on other pieces of information. There's, for example, at the end of the chapter on the police department, I've gone through and told the history of that. I've gone through and told some interesting stories about when we were kids and we had license plates on our bike. And if you did not go and get your bike inspected, they could take your bike from you. You had to have it inspected, and you had to have that little license plate. And that was not only Vestal, that was throughout the Triple Cities. So I have stories like that. There are a lot I left out from various chapters, so I could always add those on as a supplement and maybe with photographs. I do have a large collection of photographs in the office. Some of them are digital and other ones are in print form that I can scan. Somebody asked me one time, what would you think about having a section of your web pages where you show these photographs, and then if there's someone's family, I can just send them to them. So that's another possibility. There's just a lot you can do with history.
I like the concept, though, of having the online component. And
yes.
That way you can always add to it. There's
right.
no limit. Sky's the limit.
Right.
And certainly along the way, as you acquire more information from people who've read, and I'm sure even since the book has been published, you've heard from some people who have some additional tidbits you may not have known about
right.
that definitely could be incorporated in future updates.
Absolutely.
For people who are interested in obtaining a copy or copies of Welcome to Vestal, a history and reference, how can they do that?
Well, there's actually two locations. The Broome County Historical Society has offered to have my book on the second floor of the library here in Binghamton in the local history center, so you can obtain it there, or you can obtain it directly from me at my office, or I can arrange to get it to you, somehow easily. But those are the only two sources, because to keep the cost of the book down, I self-published the book, and so I cannot sell it through Barnes & Noble or through Amazon or any of those normal outlets, because it would have had to have come through a publisher to do that. So those right now are the only two sources.
Margaret Hadsell, Vestal Town historian, congratulations on the completion of an important project for Vestal and for people here in the Binghamton area.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you to Jerry.
Absolutely. And Jerry Smith continues to provide great information, including some good tips for future guests. So
right.
it's always a treasure to have him on our program.
And I also need to thank Roger, because he was the one that pushed the availability of my book at the local history center in Binghamton. So thank you also to Roger.
Roger Luther, the county historian, and he too is so dedicated to preserving county history. I mean, especially with the work that he's done with the Preservation Association of the Southern Tier, and those of us who really love our history, and yet we're excited for the future. Sometimes people say, well, you spend way too much time focusing on things that have happened in the past, whether it's good times or tragic times. And yes, we do cherish our past, but we're also excited for the future. And I really enjoy speaking with historians, whether it's town historians or our county historian, because there is so much we can learn from our history.
There's one closing line in my book, and it was attributed to a Robert Heinlein, and I don't know if he really said it or not, but his thought was, a generation which ignores history has no past and no future.
And I agree.
Yep.
Margaret Hadsell, thank you.
Thank you.
11:24, we're live and local. This is Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF. Returning to the phones, the busy phones. Martin in Binghamton, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Bob. Two things about the state of Florida. I couldn't believe this, but this really happened in May 17th of this year. I missed this, but it's true because I watched this guy on TV this morning. Ron DeSantis on May 17th passed a bill striking all references to climate change out of the state logo and laws. Don't say climate change again. And it's unbelievable that they had record temperatures last year of 113 degrees, and the seas have risen 8 inches. And now, of course, they're facing this. And, he was standing at the podium today, and the guy couldn't have more egg on his face. I mean, why all these people are leaving. And this Milton is going to be one of the worst. It's going to cover most of the state from west to east, if you're up on this. And then the second part was, I don't know if you've seen this, Bob, or not, but the long-term meteorologist, John Morales, who's been there for 40 years, literally broke down and cried on air.
I saw it. I saw it. I was moved because he with all his experience as a meteorologist, he just couldn't take it. I felt badly for him, and it was emotional. It was, in some ways, I understood where he was coming from, and it was also, to be blunt, for me, it was disturbing because he knows. He knows, and so now all we can do, the folks like you and me who don't know a whole lot about weather, now all we can do is just hold our breath and hope that the devastation isn't going to be as bad as we fear. Because I can't even come up with the right words to describe how I fear this could turn out. Now, and part of that's human nature, maybe, and part of that could be just, my personality. Well, you're always going to look at, how bad could it possibly be? Well, all we know is it's going to be bad. How bad could it possibly be? I really don't know.
It could be really bad in a sense of damage. Right now, they're doing a mass hurrying up of trying to get rid of all the garbage because of the danger of the flying projectiles and the damage that they will do, but for some of these people, and that, the highways are clogged, and some of the people, if you're less, you don't have the finances to get out, you're stuck in there, just like Katrina. But back to John Morales, I seen him in an interview last night, and he was talking about that, and that, I guess, I'm not a meteorologist, but it dropped 50 isobars in like 10 minutes, and he knew right then that this is something to be dealt with that is going to be barren. He referenced that we're in a new era of weather and meteorology, and he's been there for all the hurricanes, the major ones, going back to Irma and Michael and Katrina and of course Helene lately. And what he's developed, mostly what the tears were about, is just empathy for the people, that something that he has that other leaders certainly don't have, or intelligence to take care of this problem. I mean, how ridiculous can you be to strike climate change and all other things that reduce climate change from your books, and not accepting any federal money? Well, we'll see if he accepts any federal money now.
Well, of course he's gonna.
Well, yes, but he's got more egg on his face.
Yeah, well, that it's sad. It's sad that many times what people say, their comments, whether it's in an interview or a news conference or comments made on social media, they don't age well, and I don't know what to say. I feel, let's put it this way, I feel badly for the people of Florida and the other states that are going to be affected, certainly not to the same extent as Florida, but I also feel badly for the governor. Now, I'm not saying he should have said or did what he did earlier this year. I just feel badly for him personally. I know you and some other people are not fans of the governor, but I'm sorry. I feel sad for him right now. May not agree with him. I just feel sad. I was thinking when I was driving home from work yesterday, what it must be like now to be the governor of Florida. I'm not talking what it must be like to be him personally, but to be in that position and knowing with some certainty that the days and weeks ahead are going to be terrible, and faced with challenges that you run for governor, you accept whatever happens during your term, and certainly in a state like Florida that is vulnerable to hurricanes, nobody could say you could not have foreseen this type of disaster happening, but still, given the historical nature, it appears, with Milton and also with coming so soon after Helene, I feel terrible for everybody who's affected, whether it's the residents, businesses, and even government officials. And then what FEMA people are going to have to put up with as they attempt to do their job in the aftermath. Because I'm not going to go into excruciating detail, but Martin,
I know where you're going.
Well, yeah, and so sadly, we're gonna get an earful of that starting, if not starting tomorrow, probably starting Friday. So just think about that aspect.
There's no bottom for that, man. I was watching that Bob Day saying that 90% of the residents. There was a woman on there who was talking with her neighbor, and she was really getting her. You don't believe? You've got to believe this now. Look at this. Look at the street. Look what's going on. 90% of the residents believe in climate change, and you got this guy that's the head of the state doing this all for political reasons. And now that's why I say, hey, I don't wish the bad on anybody. I really have empathy for these people, and certainly for this John Morales. You saw what happened, what he did on air. He just couldn't control himself when he saw that live. And also there was a Air Force pilot that was flying around at the same time that Morales was on shortly after that. But saying he's never seen anything like it. So God bless. Just but just like you said, don't say gay. That hasn't aged very well. And with the books and everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, one thing I always hope after people have experienced a situation where they have said or done something publicly, and then, with the benefit of hindsight, they may come to a realization that may have been a poor choice of words or inappropriate action. I hope people will use some of those things as lessons, life lessons, and strive to do better when possible. Thank you for your call. It's 11:36 here at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Dan from Binghamton.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I just wanted to say, you guys are talking about that devastation down south and everything, and they had Donald Trump's niece on TV a couple nights ago, a night ago or so. The psychologist who wrote that book, Who Could Ever Love Me? And it was about Donald Trump. And she was explaining how he feels compelled to lie. And I was just wondering if you had an opinion on that. I mean, you've heard so many things, and of course I'm busy all day and I pop in every now and then, but it's really incredible. I just wonder if you had anything to add to that. What would drive somebody to feel like they have to lie about FEMA, about all the help they're getting down there, and in the weather in general? And I'll leave it up to you, Bob.
All right. Well, I can't explain why some people feel compelled to lie. I don't know. We'll say everybody does, but some people have apparently turned it into an art form. Some people have taken lying up to a whole new level. unfortunately, it's a very small percentage of the general population. 11:37 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Robert, I am so impressed with the Vestal Historian. That was great.
Yeah, that was great. And I only managed to take a quick glance through her book. I think I'm going to have to obtain the book because I could tell just from a quick looking through it less than a minute, how much effort went into that and how much just overall historical information about Vestal is part of that book by Margaret Hadsell.
Well, what I love about it is she took out the dryness, she gave it a little bit of spice and a touch of humor, and I think of all people, Sir J.L. Smith for getting the word out.
Yeah, well, I'm glad she credited Jerry with bringing it up, and she also gave credit to Roger Luther for his work to help make the book more accessible to people. So, we're fortunate to have great historians in the area.
The only thing I wish she did was give out a phone number because I'm definitely going to get that book. I've got to read that. I mean, it's so close to Owego and, the rest of Broome County. That is amazing. And I'm like, there's nothing I love more, Bob, than the preservation of history because we got to remember who we were, which made us to this day who we are. And she's right about the future. Remember your history.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one of these days, I'm going to write a book. So keep your eye out for that.
Am I going to be in it?
Probably not.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. Well, very few. Let's put it this way: very few callers are likely to wind up in the book, although a couple will be.
Okay. Well, then the only thing I can say is, Bob, do me a good favor today.
Okay.
Take a hike.
I will. I'm going to be taking a hike in about 45 minutes. Oh, what a feeling. Sounds like a car commercial. But it's not. It's a radio program. 607-772-1290. Bob Joseph Live. Why not? Why not call the program? 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and stay connected with WNBF's fine programs using the free WNBF app. It's 11:42. Take a hike time. Let's go take a hike to a far-flung place and claim that you're doing a news story. Yeah, right. No, I am. I'm serious. It's a news story. And the only way I can get there is to hike. That's okay. I brought my hiking boots. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Dave from Vestal, Bob. Hey, take a hike, will you?
I will.
Hey, Bob, real quick, couple things. You were talking about meteorologists and the weather and all that, and I was thinking, can we go back to the old days, Bob? Because everybody seems so desperate for relevance. I'm so tired when there's a disaster or deep snow or we got to watch these guys standing out, holding on a tree. The wind's going to blow them away. They got to stand out with hip waders in deep water. They stand in deep snow with yardsticks and rulers. Show us, Bob. Why do they realize how foolish they look?
Then stop watching it. The only reason they do it is people watch it. I will say this: at some point, some meteorologist somewhere, I'm not saying during this particular hurricane event, but someday you're going to see someone doing a live report, and it's not going to end well. And I'm trying to remember. I don't remember a specific thing. I will say this: they'd better watch out this time, especially with so much of the debris that still hasn't been collected since Helene happened. there is a clear and present danger for some of the more reckless TV people, whether they're meteorologists or reporters, where they could be very seriously hurt or killed. So if they're not careful, and I know most journalists and most news organizations try to approach these things with appropriate care, but then you get some storm chasers and stuff who are working for no one in particular. Maybe they're just posting stuff on social media, and actually some of them I know have been hurt and killed. And sometimes I believe it's because of their own foolishness and their penchant for risk taking. So, but the bottom line is, if you don't want them to do it anymore, don't watch it.
But
I'm serious. Don't watch it. If people keep watching it, the whole point is, and that's the whole point of the media, whether you like it or not, we in the media need an audience. So as long as we have an audience, and as long as we have found certain things that appear to work to maintain or increase an audience, well, of course they're going to continue. But if people stop watching that type of hurricane coverage, someone who does research will say, people are finally getting sick of this.
But filming is good enough, Bob. We don't need to see somebody blowing away or hit by a tree. We don't need to see that live. Nah. Just film. That's good. But
even in Los Angeles, even to this day in Los Angeles, some TV stations still insist on showing live coverage of police chases.
Yeah, that's true.
And the All News radio station in Los Angeles, there was a police chase late last week, and the guy on the the radio station, KNX, is he's looking at a monitor in his radio studio, and he's giving excited updates every 43 seconds about where the offending vehicle is. And he's like a little kid with the excitement. Oh, now he's down on the 5. Oh, he's coming down the Miracle Mile. It's coming past our station. He was so excited that the chase was coming past his station. I'm thinking, the people listening to your radio station don't need a play-by-play of this miscreant who won't stop for the cops.
You're right, Bob. It's true. Happens a lot.
Well, and as I said, I mean, that was actually the first time, at least in a long time, that I've heard of that sort of strange live play-by-play type coverage on a news radio station. The Los Angeles TV stations are famous for their chase coverage and breaking in to regular programming at the drop of a hat just so they could show, some who they don't even know typically, at least at the start of the coverage, what the person's being sought for. So it could be somebody is accused of stealing a stick of gum from Walgreens, and for whatever reason, the local police or CHP or somebody decides to pursue. It's like, stop already. Somebody's going to get killed, and plus, you're only glorifying the sort of behavior. I've seen at the end of some police chases where someone finally winds up turning down a dead-end alley or a cul-de-sac and has to give it up. Then the driver, she gets out of the car and she's waving to the helicopters, and it's like, hey, look at me, I'm the guy or gal who these days, who knows, I'm the person who gave you 8 minutes of pure televised entertainment. And it's like, stop it.
Got to expect it out there, Bob. They're near Hollywood.
No, they just have more opportunities for chases. I mean, don't get me wrong, if the same type of thing happened here in Binghamton and the TV stations had access to helicopters, they'd do the same thing. We just don't have enough money, fortunately, in this market for the TV stations to have helicopters. But I'll tell you what, if one of their if the owners of one of the TV stations here spent money for a helicopter, you can bet they'd say, you get into that helicopter, both the pilot and the videographer, you get in there and you cover that chase, and we're going to cover it till the very end. It's like, you don't tell the general manager or news director that you don't think it's appropriate. They paid for that. They want the investment to pay off. That's, as you recall, when this market first got live TV equipment, live vans, the edict went out that every newscast had better have at least one live shot, even if there was no good reason for it.
The O.J. chase, is that what started it all, Bob?
No. The O.J. chase, that brought the practice to the nation's attention. No, police chase coverage in the Los Angeles market was almost a daily occurrence before that saga, the sorry saga, on that June Friday night with O.J. and the guy calling in to Peter Jennings, Baba Booey. It's like, because ABC that night during their live coverage showed their lapse of journalistic judgment. They let some goofball, Howard Stern fan, get on the air and say, "Oh, I can see now. Yeah, the guy is in the back of the white SUV. It's in the driveway, and he's got a gun to his head. Baba Booey." And it's like, I'm looking at the TV saying, what kind of a Mickey Mouse operation? Oh, that's right. They're run by Walt Disney Company. What kind of news operation would let some sort of Howard Stern crackpot on the air? And I said, well, yeah, okay. And I felt badly because I think it was Peter Jennings anchoring. He didn't have any choice in it. He didn't know that they were going to set him up with a Howard Stern fan. But anyway, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the media. But on the other hand, too, I mean, it's not as though anybody got hurt from it. It was just kind of one of those momentary glitches that will sometimes happen when live coverage goes on. I mean, that's the beauty of live, though. That's, I would rather, and I know we're getting way, way off the original topic, but I would rather, if 60 Minutes at least once or twice a season would try to do a live show. I mean, I understand it goes against their basic premise of deeply reported and tightly edited interviews. They'd probably do 20 or 30 hours worth of interviews before they cull it down to 12 arable minutes in a 60-minute segment. But just every once in a while, put Leslie Stahl on with a live interview. Isn't that what America wants?
Yeah, Bob, you bring up 60 Minutes. You had a caller saying that not many people were watching when Harris was on there, but Bob, 45, 50 million, that's not a drop in the bucket. I mean,
I don't know what he meant by not many people saw her on 60 Minutes. The bigger question is why the other candidate, why he refused to go on. I think that alone for voters, that ought to give you pause. If the candidate you support is afraid to go on 60 Minutes, is that really a candidate who wants the job?
Bob, she frustrated the interviewer. She wouldn't answer any questions, Bob.
Well, then why didn't Donald Trump go on? He's the TV expert. What did he have to be afraid of? Leslie Stahl was going to ask him a tough question again about, did you tell the truth when you told a Binghamton interviewer that you had a Speedy and you said you did and you enjoyed it?
Him not going on at all.
Yeah, and seeing him squirm. Yeah, him not going on at all, I think, showed how afraid he is of 60 Minutes.
It still made him look better than what her performance.
Doesn't make anybody look good when they're afraid to be interviewed. I don't care how you spin it. Doesn't look good when you at first say you're going to come on the program and then you cancel. It makes it look like you're afraid of somebody at 60 Minutes. And I got to tell you, Dave, in all seriousness, can this country actually support a leader who's afraid of Leslie Stahl?
Well, Bob, all her answers were low IQ word salads. Did you notice? Did you watch?
Hey, that's not the point. We're not talking about the performance of Kamala Harris. She at least showed up. Donald Trump chickened out.
She should have stayed home, Bob.
Well, no, it still counts. Showing up counts for, you get at least In the American political system, you get at least a B for simply showing up. Then, if by chance you actually know what you're talking about when you're asked some important questions and show that you have a clue, then you can actually improve your score. But you get a B just for showing up. You get an F if you don't show up.
How you can lower your B to a D by how you answer the question.
Maybe she did. No, she didn't. No, most Americans didn't pay attention closely to the answers. They just saw she was on and Donald Trump wasn't, because he was afraid, apparently, of Leslie Stahl. The last time I think that he was interviewed by Leslie Stahl for 60 Minutes, I think he just left. He got so frustrated by her line of questioning that he just gave up. It's my recollection. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll say this. I hope that I never am interviewed by Leslie Stahl, because I personally would be scared. But I will say this. If I ever choose to run for office, I'll say here and now, even though I would be frightened of the insightful and thoughtful line of questioning by Leslie Stahl or anybody else from the 60 Minute squad, I would still offer to go on the program and answer every question. Yes, I would say up front, I'm scared about what they might do, because I know 60 Minutes has a reputation. Their journalists are bulldogs. They love to do gotcha questions, but I still would go on if I ran for something. Fortunately for America, that's, as they say, highly unlikely. But I think if you're running for an office, I think you ought to go on 60 Minutes. Especially if you have many years of primetime TV experience. You know, if you had never been on TV before, if you didn't know what it was like to be under those harsh TV lights, I could see being reluctant. That might have been one of the problems for Kamala Harris. She doesn't have the same kind of in-depth TV experience. She's definitely not as media savvy as Donald Trump. That guy is comfortable with the media. He loves the media. Listen to him call in to talk shows almost on a daily basis, calling his friends in the media. So it's no wonder he makes it look easy, except when he faces a possible Q&A from somebody from 60 Minutes. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Bob. This is Colleen from West Windsor. I was outside enjoying raking the leaves and listening to your show today. I feel at times, though, what it boils down to is it's going to be very hard for men to vote for a woman. And I'm out of breath, and I apologize.
Well, that's okay, but you do make a valid point. Yeah, you make a valid point.
And even though, they want equality and things like that, when it comes down to actually having to vote for a woman, though, I think it's very hard for them to do.
I think you may be right. I think you're onto something. That's probably why Trump will win.
Well, I hope not, because I don't have very much good to say then about the women that vote for him. So I just find it just inexcusable the way they're talking and just degrading, and I just can't wait until November 5th. So either way, then all this anger hopefully will calm down somewhat.
I hope so, too. I appreciate your call.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too, Colleen. Thank you. That's our program for today. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, too. I'll be back tomorrow morning from 9 to noon. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now on WNBF.
If you